How does your calculator actually know the square root of 2? I mean, really think about it for a second. It doesn't have some massive, infinite list of decimals memorized on a tiny little hard drive in there.
No way.
Instead, the millisecond you hit that button, your calculator makes a totally wild guess and then relentlessly hones in on the true answer, running through millions of calculations in literally a fraction of a microsecond. But how does it know how to guess?
Well, by the end of this lecture, you're going to understand the brilliant 300-year-old calculus trick behind this exact process. We'll look at the actual mathematical formula that drives it, and I'll show you exactly how to apply it to real examples yourself. We're essentially going to learn how to solve the unsolvable. Let's dive right in.
All right, part 1, the root finding problem. We spend a ridiculous amount of time in math trying to figure out exactly where a function hits 0. Now, for straight lines or your standard quadratics, basic algebra works perfectly fine. But what happens when you hit a monster degree 5 polynomial? Something crazy like x to the 5th plus 8x to the 4th plus 4x cubed minus 2x minus 7 equals 0. Well, it's actually a mathematically proven fact that there is no simple algebraic formula to solve that. So, how on earth do we find those roots?
The secret lies in something called an iterative process. Simply put, an iterative process is just repeating a specific sequence of steps over and over again, where the output of your very first attempt becomes the fresh input for your second attempt, and so on. It's the ultimate workaround. You see, a computer doesn't need a perfect, elegant formula. It just needs a simple, repeating rule to lock on to the answer. And the absolute best rule for finding these roots? It's called Newton's method.
Okay, moving to part 2, how Newton's method actually works. To really visualize this, imagine you're skiing down a massive mountain, but you're caught in this incredibly thick fog. Your one and only goal is to reach the valley floor, which represents an elevation of exactly 0, but you can't see the bottom. So what do? Well, you'd feel the slope of the ground directly under your skis. You'd point those skis straight down the steepest part of the slope. Mathematically, that's your tangent line, and you slide down. When that straight path hits the perceived level of the valley floor, you stop, reassess your new slope, and do it all over again.
Let's actually break down those 4 visual steps. Step 1, we make our initial guess. We'll call that x0. Step 2, we go straight up to our function's curve and draw a straight tangent line that perfectly matches the exact slope at that specific point. Step 3, we follow that tangent line all the way down until it physically crosses the x-axis. Boom! That new x-intercept is our next much better guess, which we call x1. And finally, step 4, we just repeat the whole shebang. We draw a brand new tangent line at x1, write it down to x2, and suddenly we're unbelievably close to the true root.
So, part 3, the step-by-step formula breakdown. Now that we've got the visual picture down, we have to translate those ski slopes into a language that a calculator can actually compute.
And here it is. This is the incredibly famous equation for Newton's method. It basically says that our next guess, x sub n, is equal to our previous guess, minus the function's value at that previous guess, divided by the derivative of the function at that same previous guess. I know, it looks a bit intimidating at first glance, but honestly, it just comes from taking the standard tangent line equation you learned way back in Algebra 1, good old y equals mx plus b, and simply solving it for its x-intercept. That derivative on the bottom, f prime of x, that's just the slope of our skis on the mountain.
Wait a second. Pause right here. Let me ask you something. Think back to that formula we literally just looked at. That derivative, f prime, sits right there in the denominator. What happens mathematically if that derivative is exactly 0? If you divide by 0, the math completely breaks down. It's a total division by 0 error. Keep that crucial little detail in the back of your mind because it is absolutely key to understanding exactly when this beautiful method completely falls apart.
All right, on to part 4, solving real math examples. Let's make this super concrete with a practical problem. Let's say we want to find the root of the polynomial x cubed minus 3x plus 1. Now, just by glancing at a graph, we can guess the root is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2. So we'll make our initial guess, x0 equal to 2. We take that, plug it right into our formula using the derivative, which is 3x squared minus 3. Take a look at this table of our results. On step 1, our formula spits out 1.666 and change. We take that exact number, feed it back into the machine for step 2, and out pops 1.548. But notice what is absolutely mind-blowing here? Look at how insanely fast this thing converges. By step 3, we're already at 1.532. By step 4, the decimals are barely even shifting. And by just the 5th step, we have completely locked in the exact, precise decimal answer. It's incredibly fast. Let's bring this all the way back to that very first question I asked you about your calculator.
To figure out the square root of 2, the calculator just needs to find the root of the equation f of x equals x squared minus 2. Why? Well, if x squared minus 2 equals 0, then x squared equals 2, which means x has to be the square root of 2. We set our initial guess to 2, let Newton's method do its thing,
And boom, the calculator nails this exact precision, 1.414213562 in just 4 iterations. I mean, 4 incredibly simple runs through the formula, using nothing more than basic multiplication and subtraction, and you've perfectly calculated a massively complex irrational number. That, right there, is the sheer genius of Newton's method.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, if this is so brilliant, why does it ever fail? Like what happens if our tangent line, our skis on that mountain, hits a perfectly flat plateau? Or what if our first guess is just wildly, terribly wrong?
That brings us to part 5, when the method fails. Because as a true student of calculus, you can't just know how a tool works when everything is perfect, you have to intimately understand its blind spots. Newton's method is a powerhouse, for sure, but it relies entirely on the geometry of the curve actually cooperating with our initial guess.
So, there are 3 main pitfalls you really need to watch out for. First, just like we predicted earlier, if the derivative equals 0, you've got a perfectly flat tangent line. A perfectly horizontal line is never ever going to intersect the x-axis, meaning you literally cannot find your next guess. The process just stops dead. Second, if your starting guess is way too far off, that tangent line might accidentally shoot you toward a completely different, incorrect route. And third, the approximations can actually get trapped, just bouncing back and forth forever.
And this right here perfectly illustrates that third failure, the dreaded infinite two-cycle trap. Imagine you're trying to solve the function x cubed minus 2x plus 2, and you guess 0. Your tangent line shoots you perfectly over to 1. But when you draw the next tangent line at 1, it shoots you right back to 0. The formula is just going to blindly bounce between 0 and 1 forever. It gets totally trapped in an infinite loop and completely misses the actual root.
Which leads us to part 6, iteration, cycles, and chaos. The real question here is, what happens when iteration stops converging and starts going completely, utterly crazy? Believe it or not, this simple failure in Newton's method actually opens the door to one of the absolute most fascinating fields in modern mathematics.
We just saw a 2-cycle trap. Sometimes an iterative equation gets stuck in a 4-cycle, just repeating 4 numbers in a loop. But sometimes, simple iterative processes can yield total, unfiltered chaos. This means the numbers jump around entirely at random. They never settle down, they never repeat, and they never, ever find an answer. This leads to a wild phenomenon called sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Basically, changing your starting guess by just a tiny fraction of a decimal generates drastically, wildly different long-term behavior. It's like a butterfly flapping its wings.
To actually study this, mathematicians use deceptively simple little formulas, like the logistic map you see here. By just ever so slightly tweaking the value of r in this equation, the resulting iterative process transforms. It goes from plotting a single, completely predictable point to falling into a 2-cycle, to eventually exploding into complete, beautiful mathematical chaos, generating those infinitely complex structures like the famous Mandelbrot set.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? Let's take a breath and summarize the key points before we wrap up. We started out just pressing a single button on a calculator, and we've somehow ended up staring right over the edge of mathematical chaos.
Here's what you absolutely must remember from this lecture. Number 1, iteration is an unbelievably powerful tool to solve complex equations that basic algebra simply cannot touch. Number 2, Newton's method uses the slope, those tangent lines, as a visual roadmap to rapidly lock in on the exact answer. And number 3, your initial guess matters immensely, because falling into a simple cycle can easily lead your calculator into an infinite, completely chaotic loop.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. What actually happens when we mathematically map out that descent into total, unpredictable chaos? Like, how do we physically visualize infinity? Well, to find out, you are going to have to join me in our next lecture on chaos theory and cobweb diagrams.